choice. And my name is Sinazo January. Now, this is a show where I bring you nothing but the best of the business sector in and around the Eastern Cape. And as usual, this episode is absolutely no different. Now, on tonight's episode, we attended the Aeona Energy Retail Conference, which was held at the Boardwalk Hotel and Conference Centre. So let's go have a look.
I'd like to give an introduction to our chairperson, Mr. Stephen Dondolo. Although he needs no introduction, Mr. Dondolo is the CEO of the Africa Pioneer Group. He is the chairman of the Pioneer Fishing Group and a director and shareholder of Coca-Cola Beverages South Africa, Woodlands Dairy, and chair of Mfuleni Resorts, which is a subsidiary of Sun International. He's highly involved in sports development, educational and entrepreneurial programs in disadvantaged communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm round of applause to Mr. Stephen Dondolo.
Morning to everyone present in this function, and I'm sure you are already welcomed by the lady. And mine is honestly to just introduce us to introduce our company, purely to make sure that people understand the partnership that we are building, who is behind the side of Aeona. And before I do that, I must recognize our partners present here. I will be mentioning one or two by the name, or if I do not mention also some of our partners, they must know also that I recognize them. The first one is Farouk from Astron and the team. And those are our major partner because they are in the value chain, supplies everybody here as a team. On the retail, the fresh shop, Joe is also here, welcome. And also recognizing you. You are part of our future. It's the way the things are happening. The retail is very important to us. We are here as retailers, have been retail for many years. And I know the challenges of the retail. And in my presentation, short presentation, I'll be talking a little bit about our Pioneer slots, how we run it, and it's about 70 of the retail shops that we are running. Therefore, retail is something that is in our heart. The directors that are present here, I must also recognize them, and I was expecting Greg to be present. And our senior management that put the function together. Without them, this function would not have taken place. The whole staff, because sometimes when you are a leader, you just see things happen, you forget to recognize the importance of the people and the role that they are playing. I will not be in this meeting if our critical partner, the face of our business, which is the retailers. The retailers, there are so many, we've got about 115, 116, and our target is about 120 this year. They are the people that are face of our partnership. We have Astron, then we have Aeona, and then we have our retailers. And I'm welcoming you guys in this very important function. And the function is, the motto is a straightforward one, is innovating for the future. And that to me, it means we are coming from the last 2 years, we never had 2 or 3 years, we never had this gathering. Nobody planned that in between there will be the corona. But the corona, to be honest, stopped our relationship. And this function today is one of those that is trying to bring us together. We know you guys are interacting in the field on a regular basis. But I'm welcoming everybody present here. And Louis, with your team, and you have done a wonderful job. Keep on doing it. We know that the volumes are not the number that we want, but I'm sure out of the workshop you'll be coming with an innovative way of increasing the volumes. I would love them to introduce African Pioneer, the structure of African Pioneer, so that at least people must know that the partnership that we are dealing with is not a partnership that is small. I forget my thing now there. If one look at our left-hand side or right-hand side of the presentation, there's portfolio, passive portfolio. Those are passive portfolio, and those are investment to us where most of our investees are involved. We, as you know, in passive investment, our philosophy is we invest in a business that is having a future, and we invest for the future, like we're innovating for the future. And we are building a company to last. We are not just doing for today. We want our African Pioneer to be the company that will last long. The company has got already a history, but I was surprised that I was called by Louis and do a presentation because I hate presenting the company. It's already 33 years old. It has gone throughout the dips, the ups and the downs. If you know, even the government that is going through the ups and downs, African Pioneer was already there from 1990. We know all the downfall. We failed before, and then we fight because we failed. The leadership was faced with the people criticizing them of not doing what they are looking for. The project that we have under the investment is Coca-Cola, Appetizer, Woodlands, and Fairfield Dairy, and Metro Wind. Metro Wind is more on the energy, but because our shareholding is small, it is under that. And then we also have another small little investment in a farming. You'll be surprised why a farming in the whole portfolio. But that farming is something that we are looking at and say, can this be a standalone business one day, which will be able to develop, add value to the farming, not to sell the commodity like most of us. We sell the whole fruit or the whole overseas without adding value. And I'm very proud that under that company we are already having some partners that are talking seriously of adding value in South Africa, and so that when the product goes out, the value has been added in South Africa. We all know that in the past, the value is always added from outside the country. We need to add value here. Astron is a typical example. They bring the crude oil, they add value here. We are a value chain that we are part of them. I must say that in African Pioneer, we've got the fishing. We own that fishing company 100%. It employs 1,200 people, and it has got the subsidiaries, as you can see, a year two, which is a factory just around the corner. Abalone, you will know about abalone. It's some species that in South Africa most people are worried about because it's diminishing. The China are killing for it. That means then it means a lot. We've got a very proud to own Glenrick brand. Glenrick brand is rolled out and we own it 100% and it's getting to all shops. Our opposition, our competitor, which I don't want you guys to even think about, is watching at each and every step we do. We're small, 100% black owned, and we're moving forward.
It's time to take a quick ad break, but we'll be back right after this. Welcome back from the ad break. Now, we had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Louis Marais, who spoke a little bit about the petrol and energy industry in the Eastern Cape. So let's go have a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Louis Murray for the Group CEO address.
Morning, everybody. Certainly good to be together. And Mr. D, as he's affectionately known to many of us, thank you so much for that. And we haven't got a problem with you talking and ongoing. It was a challenge getting Mr. D to come and address us. He's just such a humble guy. And I was saying to him, Mr. D, the last retailers conference before my time was in 2018. Since then, you have taken control as a controlling shareholder, and he didn't mention it, but he's got in excess of 75% of Iona Energy, and I mean that's significant. But not only that, he finds himself as a key player. I wish all my previous group chairmen and CEOs were as intimately involved as Mr. D is in the business. He tells me, he used the illustration the other day when we were in the office, he had a bottle of water in front of him, and he said, you know, when I ask you to fill the bottle, I'm not concerned about the fact that you're going to fill it. It's just the speed you take to fill it that concerns me. So, Mr. D, thank you so much for being here, just taking time out. So, for me to stand up here today and attempt to teach you something about selling fuel, I believe would be a terrible mistake. I think what you guys have forgotten about retailing, and particularly in the fuel industry, I still have to learn. And I'm learning every day. I think the old cliche that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, I think I've proved that to be wrong, because I'm an old dog and I am learning new tricks in this industry almost every day. So if I look around us, and I've got to know many of you, I've got to meet many of you, we haven't just got decades of institutional knowledge here. I think we've got centuries combined institutional knowledge in this room. And I'm going to touch on it in just a moment, but I think when we start pooling that information, I think it's going to go a long way going forward. But as we come this morning, I just wanted to show you, just as a bit of a departure point, one of our flagship sites. And I know Greg and Lauren are here representing our Beacon-based site, but I'm sure as one looks at that, Farouk, you can see Wandisa, Tabogo, something, and the branding people, we're going to be hearing something of that. I mean, that, and that's not Photoshop, that is in actual fact the site itself. So I think this is, when we talk about innovating for the future, we've heard something about, and we're going to be hearing from Farouk in just a little while, when we start talking about where we're wanting to go, where we're wanting, what image we're wanting to present, how we're wanting to get there, I think this is just an example of where we're heading to. So I'm just going to take you through something of innovating for the future, a little bit of our history and our overview, something of the sales performance, because I think that's significant when we start talking about retail and innovating and where we're going to get there. Some of the trends that affect our business, and then I'm going to show you the restructure which I've been intimately involved with, and it was part of my brief in coming in. And as a matter of fact, in 3 days' time, I would have been with Iona Energy exactly 12 months. I often say to Mr. D, I feel a little bit like that grade 1 schoolboy that's taken and dropped off at the hostel. And his mom kisses him on the cheek and says goodbye and heads off into the sunset. Well, Mr. D, 12 months ago, met me in East London, kissed me on the cheek and said goodbye. And Mr. D, thank you for that. It was great for that. He's promised to come back and visit me. Well, it's only 12 months now, so and I still haven't seen you there, but I'm looking forward to you coming to be with me. And then, of course, the way forward, where we see ourselves going. And then I'm going to share with you in closing just something of what I believe to be significant, something that's close to my own heart, close to nature, and that's out of the Ian Thomas's book on the power of the pride. But let me just start with a quote by Elon Musk. Elon Musk, born in 1971, and I don't know how many of you have tracked the Elon Musk story, but when I was just going through some quotes on innovation, I came across this particular one from Elon Musk. And what an interesting character. You know, when we see successful people like this, we often think that it's guys like this that are born with a golden spoon in their mouths. I would encourage you, go and read the life of Elon Musk. As a young boy, comes from a broken home, he said this about his father. He said, "My father was the most evil man I've ever met in my life." Now, for you to say that about your father and then go on to become what Elon Musk has become is something else. A little later in life, after he had done his basic education, Elon Musk, he and his brother took 15,000 US dollars and they invested it in a company called Zip2. That was in 1995. 15,000 US dollars. They took everything they had. In 1999, they sold Zip2 to Compaq for $341 million. So in 4 years, he went from a $15,000 investment to a $341 million gain. So you can see the type of entrepreneurship that comes through here from a man who wrote these words. Innovation often doesn't come through one breakthrough idea, but through relentless focus on continuous improvement.
And if you are joining me right now, we are at the Iona Energy Retail Conference. And joining me right now is the CEO. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Murray.
Hi, good evening to you, and it's great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, first of all, let's talk about why we are here today. What is this conference about, and also who are the attendees attending today's conference?
Well, we are what is known as a branded marketer, which means that we represent Caltex in the Eastern Cape. And representing Caltex means we have 117 sites stretching from Humansdorp all the way through to Kokstad, down to Port St. John's, which is a huge footprint. And in each one of those sites, we have what is known as a retailer. And pre-COVID, which was 2018, was our last retailer conference. And it's absolutely critical to get our retailers together. So this is our first retailers conference post-COVID to get the guys together to talk about strategy, to talk about the industry. And as we all know, the industry is in absolute turmoil at the moment, the fuel sector. And to just talk about how we're going to manage this, how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to go forward, and how we're going to generate sustainability.
Now let's talk about the impact of load shedding in the industry. How bad has it been, and what kind of ideas are you coming up with to actually, tackle the issue?
Okay. Well, I think from a load shedding perspective, the first thing one needs to recognize is that our sites, each and every site, is totally dependent on electricity from a pumping point of view. And it's a 24/7 site. So the moment a site goes down, you don't only lose the pumping side of it, but you also lose the retail side of it and all the point of sale programs that go with it. So from a site point of view, it's absolutely critical. Obviously, we've needed to compensate. We've needed to provide alternatives. So our retailers throughout our footprint have gone the generator route. We've got 1 or 2 sites that have now gone completely off the grid from a solar inverter perspective. And we are also, as a group, investigating the whole alternate energy development per site at this point in time.
Now, you spoke about, the challenges that you guys have been facing because of COVID. Now, let's speak about that. What kind of challenges do you think you guys are still struggling and battling with because of COVID?
Well, I think, during the COVID cycle, we know that the movement of people, the movement of motorists, very, very restricted. So we just typically nobody was using their vehicles. Nobody was leaving home. There were a few emergency type services that were still operative, but generally speaking, nobody left home. No vehicles on the road. So the fuel sector took a major, major knock. Together with that, we've now come out of COVID, and we no sooner come out of COVID where we see fuel prices go from 12 Rand a litre to in excess of 25 Rand a litre. So just when motorists thought this was the time to get out there, to enjoy their vehicles, to enjoy holidays, to enjoy everything else, they now find that their disposable income is being utilised just to put fuel in their tanks. So we saw a major decline in kilometres travelled, and where initially somebody would come in and fill their tank, they now come in and put a half a tank in, or a quarter of a tank, because they're getting the same amount of fuel for the money spent, which was a major issue.
Yeah, that's correct. Now let's speak about the growth in the Eastern Cape. Do we have potential? Would you say we have growth we have potential in growth as far as the sector is concerned?
You're talking about the fuel sector per se, or industry in general?
Let's say industry in general.
Okay, so let's talk about industry to start with.
Yeah.
We know that our ports, mainly the Port Elizabeth port and the East London port, they trying to reinitiate something of the activity through those ports. But right now we have huge ore transportation that is coming all the way down through the Craddock zone into the Port Elizabeth area, and that has stimulated, from a fuel sector point of view, some growth, some significant growth in the area. But what we have seen is, just generally speaking, the industry per se has slowly declined, just simply because of the economy, the general economy. And if we take our fuel coming into the zones, in both the East London port and also the Port Elizabeth port, we have major issues relative to constraints. The equipment is old, it hasn't been renewed. We've got Astron sharing with other partners in trying to initiate these things. So we have got some challenges in the area and in the.
Should we expect there to be change anytime soon? How are we looking? What would you say? How long would it take us to actually get to a point where you guys feel comfortable with the change and the amount of growth in the industry?
Well, I think what we need to recognize firstly is that our partners in the industry, our mother company is Astron.
Yes.
And Astron is going to be the future brand for Caltex, as we all know. Previously Chevron, then Caltex, and now we have Astron. And the encouraging thing to see is that Astron have brought with them into the industry a huge investment. They are one of 3 operational refineries at the moment on the West Coast. And part of them, Astron coming into or Glencore coming into the country and rebranding Caltex as Astron, we now see that there's a huge investment taking place, and we now sitting on the edge of our seats waiting for that investment to filter through and impact us here in the Eastern Cape.
Dr. Murray, thank you so much. Very enlightening. And thank you for also having us today. It was great talking to you. And there you have it, Dr. Murray right here. We are in the Nelson Mandela Bay. Stay tuned. It's time to take another quick ad break, but don't go anywhere because we'll be back right after this. Welcome back from the ad break. Now, still at the Aeona Energy Retail Conference, we also had a conversation with Mr. Farouk Farista. And right now joining me is Mr. Farouk Farista, and he's going to talk about the rebranding. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you are welcome. So a little bit about our rebranding. Yeah, this program has started probably about roughly around a year ago. To date, we have around 57 sites. The intent is to have probably around 230 odd sites by the end of the year. And we hope to complete the complete rebranding of the entire network of roughly, we'll probably have about 750 sites by the end of 2006.
Wow. Now, let's talk about why the rebranding all of a sudden. Tell us about that.
Okay, so as I told the retailers in this engagement there in a conference, right? We made a significant investment as Astron Energy in the country, and a big part of that investment was around restarting our refinery in Milnerton, and thankfully we've got that going, and it's going quite well. In addition to that, we've made another very significant decision to rebrand our network to Astron, right? And the underlying story behind this is to build a strong South African brand, and our intent is to be the single biggest, most profitable, I must add, oil company with a retail brand called Astron Energy. Right? And we think that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be the best fuel retailer in this country.
Now, how's the project been going? And also, let's talk about the partners involved as well. Tell us about the partners involved.
Okay, so we have a number of players, right? A big part of this is a company called Umpondo who actually executes on our behalf. In addition to that, we have a number of what we call branded marketers. We have certain geographies around the country, and they're carved out in different parts of South Africa. And so we work through them. For example, in the Eastern Cape, our intent is to rebrand probably about 117 sites, and we're going to be doing it over the next 3.5 years, roughly around 30 sites per annum.
Now, let's talk about the challenges, because obviously when the whole rebranding idea came about, there were challenges. But take us through all those challenges that you guys had to actually go and reconsider and go through and actually think about as well.
Okay, so I mean, firstly, it's a very brave decision, right? Because it's the first time in the history of this country that an oil company is rebranding its site. So that in itself was a very, what I would say, a very brave decision, and for the right reasons. Alongside that, we had to do a lot of customer research. You got to figure out what's the color combination and the palette, or what we call the CI, the corporate identity of the brand, together with getting a feel for how customers react to it. So a lot of focus groups, market research, and kind of getting all of the role players. So there were 3 parts to it. One is around getting the branding in terms of the look and feel aesthetics. The other bit was the detailing on site. And the third element is really what we call how do you extend or engage the community, retailers, etc., on the acceptance of the brand. And so that has been, probably took about a year to do all of that. And it's not as easy as switching a button. So initially there's always a bit of hiccups. I mean, you've got to change the pylons, you've got to change the canopy, you've got to change the lighting, you've got to change the entire look and feel. But the good news is we can comfortably say today we are in a place where the pipeline is so solid that we can convert roughly around 30 sites a month almost seamlessly.
Yeah, now you are going around all these provinces, but tell me about your expectations when it comes to the Eastern Cape specifically.
So firstly, we're very excited to be partnering with Iona Energy, and more so because we believe that this is a geography that we would like to have a strong presence. There may be some minor supply challenges along the way, but irrespective of those ad hoc supply challenges, we believe that this is a geography where we can effectively own the space in terms of our brand presence. We have a formidable partner who are very strong in their capability, their real estate, together with the quality of the retailers. And we feel that if we get all of the elements of what we call the customer value proposition right on site, that we can only grow, we can only go upwards from here.
Mr. Farista, thank you so much for taking the time for this interview.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
And there you have it from Mr. Farouk Farista talking about the rebranding. But right now, it's back to studio. And unfortunately, that is all that we have for you for tonight's episode of Bizz Talk. But do join me next week, same place, same time, right here on Channel 260. But from myself, Sinazo January, and the rest of the MPK crew, for right now, it is good night.